We all look at our,
I know.
we all look at our watches.
There's 15 minutes of our life we'll never get back. I'm going to do a mental diet because I'm going to get myself back out of total fascination and irritability and into a good mood. Okay. Yes. So, yes. So, on. Moving forward. So, one of the things I want to share with you guys, we don't have payday today because we don't have Allison, and our assistant NCA isn't here till later in the day. So, we're going to skip the payday candy bars. This is something that I've really, is there anybody in here who has seen this before? You've seen it, and you've seen it, Joe, but I don't think anybody else has. Okay, so we talk all the time about what our big goals are and how we're going to get there, right? And one of the really cool things about realtors is that you guys, just by the way that you're wired, are inherently visionary. You know, you see a big goal, you see a big picture. I hope you understand that you're different than like 97% of the population. Dar Walden and I were just talking this morning about the fact that Dar and I were just talking about the fact that within the DISC, for example, you understand that I think the statistic is 3% of the population is a high D. It's a very, very small percentage. And we all kind of hear that and we go, like Matt just did, like, really?
Are we surrounded by high Ds?
Because you are.
Right now in this room?
You are. So they all gravitate to certain professions that require, you know, being very driven. But if you go out into like the real world, outside of the real estate industry, and you start dealing with people in the workforce and just people in general, you find that most people are not high Ds. But we kind of expect that everybody else is. So you guys are visionary. You know, every year you're thinking, I would hope that right now, it's October 23rd, 22nd, something around there. You know, it's really January 23rd, right? We'll get that.
As cold as it is right now, I'm not surprised. It should be.
Well, it's really January 23rd because what you're doing now is your first quarter. It completely is. So we're really, our clock should be reset internally to January. So here's my question. I know that each of you knows what you want to do in 2013. You may not have articulated it, you may not have written it down on paper, you may not have done, you may be waiting till the business planning course to write your business plan, but I know in your mind, you know where you want to go. Some of you have. I have Christina's organizational chart and her goals and business plan for the next year. You know, I know there's certain people that have done it. Lindsay Larson, for example. So here's the real question, how are you going to do it? And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. Because it's one thing to have really great big goals. It's another thing to implement them and execute them. So how do you get from having the vision to actually attaining the goal? Now there's all kinds of things that we talk about, you know, time management and business planning. This video is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution. This is probably one of the best videos I've seen on execution of a goal in ever. It is incredibly solid. So it's about 14 minutes long, but I want you to watch it because we showed it to our ALC and our ALC clinic, and our leadership team has looked at it, and the feedback I've gotten has been phenomenal. It's like, it just breaks it down. You will probably want to take notes because there's a lot of stuff that comes through here.
Is this available for us?
I can send it to you, but I would...
Everybody else except Marcy.
Huh? Well, yeah, everybody but
We're not
Marcy. I'm not giving it to you. You don't get it. So, enjoy. And oh, by the way, at the end, I'll get your ahas. So be ready to give those back.
There are two things that a leader can influence when it comes to getting results. There's the strategy or the plan, and there's the ability to execute that strategy. If you ask leaders which of these two things they struggle with more, the vast majority of leaders are going to tell you it's execution. Now, if you've been to business school or you have an MBA, ask yourself this question. What was it you were studying? Studying execution, or were you studying strategy and business planning? We find it very interesting that what leaders are struggling with is not what they were educated in. Ram Charan said that 70% of strategic failures are due to poor execution of leaders. It's rarely a lack of smart supervision. one is what we call the whirlwind or the day job. This is all the work, energy, and attention that's needed to keep the organization running today. This is what keeps the doors open. This maintains the operation. It's what people will often refer to as the real work. The other force is the goals for moving the organization forward. These two things are not the same. They're both absolutely necessary, and they do not get along. Ask yourself this question. Would the people in my organization still be busy even if we didn't have any goals for moving the organization forward? Think about the strategies, the initiatives, the priorities that you've seen die. What killed them? Was it incompetence? Was it defiance? The vast majority of the cases, what we see is that they are choked or starved by the whirlwind, by the urgency of the day-to-day. In the vast majority of the cases, people are not stupid and they're not lazy. They're busy. The primary characteristic of a whirlwind is urgency. It acts on you. The goals for moving the organization forward are important, but they will never have the same sense of immediacy or urgency as the whirlwind does. You have to act on them. When urgency and importance clash, urgency wins. Here's the bottom line. The challenge with execution is not simply executing on a goal. It's executing on a goal in the midst of the whirlwind. The 4 disciplines of execution exist solely for the purpose of helping an organization execute on its goals in the midst of that whirlwind.
Let's stop right here. Is this sounding familiar to anybody? Yes.
Holy smokes, and it's just such plain language, it's just so compelling.
Okay, what, I mean, do you hear yourself, do you just hear yourself thinking either the conversations, remember, conversations are with myself only and sometimes they include other people. Do you have this in your head all the time?
All the time.
I can't lead generate because I have an appraiser blowing up my phone. I have this, I have that. And when he says that, when the urgent and important collide, the urgent always wins. The other key question, if you had no goals, would you still be busy? Sure you would. Absolutely you would. You'd still be busy, busy, busy. You just wouldn't be moving anywhere, but keeping the doors open. I mean, there's realtors operate all the time with 0 goals. They don't have a goal or something that's this huge objective. From the team leader perspective, it's when I call to recruit somebody and I know that they close 4 deals a year and they tell me they're too busy to meet with me. Are they too busy? Sure they are. They can be busy. So what do you think so far?
Good.
Even though these disciplines are logical and straightforward, they are not easy to implement or maintain in an organizational setting. They say easy, they do hard. And whether you're running a very simple organization or an extremely complex one, the good news is they always work. The first of these disciplines is to focus on the wildly important. If a team or an organization has 2 to 3 goals in addition to the whirlwind, they are likely to achieve 2 to 3 goals. That same team has 4 to 10 goals, they're likely to achieve only 1 or 2. This is called the law of diminishing return, and it is real. That same team has 11 to 20 goals, they're not likely to accomplish anything outside of the whirlwind. At 11 to 20 goals, they can't even hear you, let alone execute. While this is a simple enough idea, it's very difficult for most organizations to adhere to. Leaders are typically the ambitious and the creative type. The problem with that type is they always want to do more and not less. And there will always be more good ideas than there is capacity to execute. Because of that, organizations have to say no to good ideas. And that's very counterintuitive. They like to say, the bad ideas, not the good ideas. Said differently, in the words of Jim Collins, the enemy of the great is the good. These critical few goals that are in addition to the whirlwind are called wildly important goals, or WIGs. These are the goals that make all the difference. Failure to achieve these goals renders any other achievement inconsequential. Here are a few of the critical rules that apply to Discipline 1. First, there should be no more than 1 to 3 wigs at the same time for the same team. Secondly, sub-wigs can be different from their parent wigs, but must ensure the success of the parent. It's not enough for the sub-wig to just support or align to the parent wigs. The sum total of the sub-wigs or battles must ensure the success of the parent wig or the war. And third, a wig must have a clear finish line, a single measure of success in the form of from X to Y by when. Too often, goals are defined in general terms with a variety of measures that merely dilute accountability and clarity. In the 1950s, our struggling space program had the goal of leading the world in space exploration, and that was a fine goal, and there were lots of measures associated with it, but there was very little focus, clarity, or accountability. In '61, Kennedy said something a little different. He said, "We put a man on the moon by the end of the decade and return him safely home." When he stated that from X to Y by when, he created a line in the sand. Accountability went up, and interestingly enough, so did morale. With every organization that we work with, when they move from a half a dozen or a dozen of these "we kind of ought to's" to 1 or 2, no matter what, there is a tangible change in morale. The second discipline is to act on the lead measure.
Okay, before we get into that one, what are your thoughts on the wildly important goal?
Well, one thing is, we was talking about SMART goals, which we talked about a lot.
What did you say, Marcy?
Said the one.
When? From X to Y by when? Which is, I mean, this is Keller Williams language just spun on its head, right? Like you said, it's time sensitive. You know, it's interesting when I meet with agents, a lot of times they come in my office and they tell me, here's all the things I want to do. I want to create a new listing presentation. I want to start a direct mail campaign. I want to work on calling FSBOs, and I'm going to start with expireds. And I have to get my contact management system perfect, and I have to do this, and I have to rebrand myself, and these are all the things I want to get done. According to what we just saw, what will happen when that is how we're operating?
Nothing.
Nada. Has anyone ever experienced that? And what's the advice I always give to a person when they're sitting there? One thing. Just get to one thing. Because if you don't, you're going to do nothing. And that's not because you're a failure or you're a bad person. That's just because that's the law of diminishing returns. It has nothing to do with you or your capability or your intellect or, like he said, when people fail, it's not because of...
Because they're stupid or lazy.
It's not because they're stupid or lazy. It's because of execution. What we just said, oh, yeah.
Well, you know, this is the third time I was actually just reviewing this stuff yesterday, and it kind of surprises me that real estate licensees have any trouble at all with this, because this is exactly like what we do every 40 days. When you write a contract, so A is going to buy the house and B is going to close by C. You know, we do this all the time.
Yeah.
And yet when it comes to setting any kind of goals that aren't as clearly defined in a contract, it's like this amorphous thing that, like you said, I'm going to do these 23 different things sometimes.
Right.
You know, but if we just
Look at it like it's a purchase and sale agreement, you know, it's really the same kind of thing.
Well, and one of the things I'm thinking is, I'm going to show this again, because I've watched this now, I think this is like my 5th or 6th time, and I'll probably watch it a lot more. When we teach time management, because when we teach you guys to do a 411, people get frustrated with me when I work through it with them, because I tell them, get some of the crap off of it. Because they come in with the 411, and at the top of their yearly goals, they have like 10 things. Again, what do I know based on the law of diminishing returns? They have 10 things on there, and they're going to have a very unproductive year. Not that they can't be busy, but they're not going to be productive, and that's why we tell you, keep the 411 simple. Don't we always use the words, Joe and I always say, don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. Now I think we've learned a different way to kind of say it, which is stick to the wildly important goal. Because when you start adding in all the other stuff, you're going to get sidetracked.
Once a clear finish line is established in Discipline 1, the team knows how it wins or loses. It has its lag measure. The key to execution is to act on the lead measure. While lag measures measure the goal, Lead measures measure something that leads to the goal and something the team can influence. A lead measure is predictive of goal success, but it is also influenceable by the team. This is the golden rule of execution. Focusing on a predictive and influenceable measure. In a word, it is leverage. For instance, if you want to lose weight, the lag measure is weight loss. The lead measure, there's two of them, you got them, right? Diet, calories taken in, and exercise, calories burned. They're predictive of weight loss, and they're also more directly influenceable. Here's the problem. Human beings focus on lag measures rather than lead measures, even though the lag measure is not directly influenceable. And they do this for two reasons. First, because the lag measure matters. That's the thing that you want, or that's the thing that you're accountable for. The second reason people focus on lag measures, because the data is always easier to get. All right? Go back to the weight loss thing. If I've got scales in my bathroom, I can step on those scales, and in 2 seconds, I know what the data is telling me. I got no idea how many calories I've eaten today, and I certainly don't know how many I've burned. Not only are lag measures easier to measure, half the time they'll chase you down. One of our clients affectionately refers to lag measures as oh crap measures, because when you pull them, you're either saying oh crap or oh cool, but it doesn't feel like you have a lot of influence over them. As a matter of fact, if you feel like luck is playing a role in your career, it's because you're looking at lag measures. Lead measures are different for every team and every week. Examples might include out of stocks in a grocery store driving store sales, compliance to safety standards, driving a reduction in accidents, qualified proposals, driving a monthly sales number, improved preventative maintenance and full crews, driving improved plant production, number of one-on-one coaching sessions with call center reps to drive a customer satisfaction number. Your lead measures aren't always that easy to identify, and they're not always that easy to track once you have identified them. This is the main reason why narrowing the number of goals that you're focusing on in Discipline 1 is so critical. If a given team is trying to impact half a dozen goals simultaneously, it becomes almost impossible to identify and track that many lead measures, particularly in the face of the whirlwind.
Okay, so what are the examples? What would be, with you guys, and this is the cool thing, ours is easy to identify, the lag measure and the lead measure. So what's your lag measure?
Income.
Yeah.
GCI, income, however you want to quantify it. Units. So what's our lead measures?
Marketing and prospecting.
Number of appointments.
Even, they break it down even further, the number of appointments.
Number of calls.
Phone calls.
Remember, influenceable. These are influenceable, right? This is what's fascinating when I get to sit with someone and dissect their business. When they can tell me how many units they closed and they can't tell me how they got there. They just got them. Because it's not influenceable. It just shows up. You're either at the end of the year saying, oh crap, or oh cool. And it's just completely at the mercy of the market. These are influenceable. Can you influence the number of appointments that you have? Absolutely. By doing what? Exactly.
You can also influence your lead conversion by practicing scripts.
Sure, absolutely. So you can, these are steps you have total control of. This is why the KW Education talks about building a business you own. This you control. This, you're either, 1 year you have it, 1 year you don't. I mean, we see it all the time when we analyze agents' numbers and we look at their history. 1 year they can have a $13 million year, and the next year they have a $2 million year. And you go, what happened? And who knows? The other thing is tracking. This is what's so great, is you can track this stuff. He's right, it takes time to track it. I love the weight loss analogy. Why do people want a quick fix? Because they don't want to do the work of counting the calories burned. It is work. It is not, and you said at the beginning, it's not easy. It's hard, it's totally doable. So when you're tracking all of this, you can see the impact on your lag measure. What do you guys think?
Sounds like what Roy's talking about, so look at the results of the action.
Hey, you got all this stuff from Keller Williams.
So if the background wasn't purple but red, I would be convinced this was a Keller Williams video.
So when I moved over to Keller, I told people I went to get my MBA. Because that's what we had. You hear the analogy, they're talking about grocery stores and plants. We just teach you business. It's going to business school. We happen to sell houses. That's why a Franklin Covey video can be totally applicable here.
The third discipline is to create a compelling scoreboard. The purpose of that scoreboard is to hold the lead and the lag measures for discipline 1 and discipline 2. And without a scoreboard, it won't take people very long to forget what they actually agreed the lead and the lag measures actually were. Now, creating a scoreboard isn't very tricky. Creating a compelling scoreboard, that's the difficult part. It needs to feel at least a little like a game. And to do that well, there are 4 rules for creating a compelling scoreboard. First, simple. Think about how many football statistics there are and how many are actually on the scoreboard itself. This is about creating a player's scoreboard, not a coach's scoreboard. Second, it has to be visible to the players. Third, it has to show both the lead and the lag measures. I have to see that I can affect the score, that's the lead part, and that it's making a real difference, that's the lag part. And finally, and most importantly, you can tell immediately if you are winning or losing. One of our clients, a manufacturing company operating in North Carolina, in a town where the average education level is only 7th grade, it's very interesting to us because every employee in that plant can tell you every single day whether they are winning or losing on their top priorities. This is fascinating to us because most executives can't provide you with that information. By the way, that same plant is also producing twice the profits with less people than all of its other sister plants. We also believe that the single biggest contributor to employee morale is whether or not a person feels that they are winning at work. Just go back in your own life and think about the time when you were most engaged and most excited about what you were doing. And see if at that time you didn't feel like you were winning. Disciplines 1, 2, and 3 creates a winnable game for a person. Not just a game, but a winnable game. And we haven't executed anything at this point.
What are your takeaways from that?
What you just said about if they've studied morale being also dependent on whether the employees think they can influence it.
Well, I believe that's connected because
Yeah.
the scoreboard is your ability to influence the outcome. Because you're measuring the lead measures, which influence the outcome. And he didn't say that they were winning. What did he say? That they feel like they were winning.
Oh, okay.
Because they know that they have influence. And remember the video we watched about happiness and success? And it's not that you are successful so you can be happy, it's that you start from a place of happiness and then you're more successful. It's reverse of what we think. It's kind of saying the same thing. When you have a scoreboard up, you know what, so give me some ideas. What does the scoreboard look like for you guys?
Not a lot of whiteboards around this office.
How many people, I can't tell you, I know Joe, same thing. People come to me and say, I need a whiteboard, what do I put on it? I gotta do something, what do I put on it? It's because you gotta try, you have to have a compelling scoreboard. Why do you think we have Market Center number posters all over the Market Center? So we can see a scoreboard, absolutely. So what does that look like for you? Okay, so I will send you.
Okay, thank you.
One of the interesting things after the ALC meeting, I went back and took it to my assistant, and I didn't realize she was getting really frustrated because what do? I just push things off onto her, and I don't tell her really a priority or anything else because my mom's the next thing after I throw it on her desk. And so we sat down and we did this, and we have a WIG meeting once a week now, and we go over. There's WIG meeting for business, and that doesn't change, but we go over hers, we go over mine, and we make sure they line up. And she loves it because every single week she accomplishes those 3 things. And I mean, she tells me, it's hilarious, she sends me emails and goes, oh, I already got that done, you know, because she's accomplishing those 3 things. Now, it was a little bit hard for me because I'm like, but I have 20 I want you to do, you know, in my head. But I realized that by doing that, then she doesn't get anything, right? So by giving her 3 at a time, I'm still going to get to 20.
Yeah.
And she's going to be happy. And I just told her, because we went through this video and we went through the whole thing, and she's in charge of the scoreboard, and the girl is excited about it. Like, I would rather shoot myself in the head, but she's like all about it, and she's making, she goes, I think we need more than one. I think we need one for the business, we need one for me, we need one for lead generation, and I mean, she's like all about it. So as far as the morale, it's hugely important.
Well, and that's where I would stop her and keep her to 1.
Yeah.
Because if she gets to 5, when she's getting excited about it, and that's
Yeah.
morale, then you're going to get back to the law of diminishing
Exactly.
returns. So she's got to keep it to it. And here's the one piece of advice: when you are putting together your whiteboard, or Bob King created one, or Bob Bolding created one, and he had Bob King make it for him on this on his wig, which was to hit 15. Well, it was to hit 16 million, and it was very clean and simple. It was a barometer, and everything was marked off. And it had the goals, you know, he was going to send his assistant to Hawaii if he broke 15 million. It's very simple, but it's there, and they see it, and he should have finished the year at 20 million this year. And he's been tracking it the whole way with that scoreboard that his assistant is bought in on, and he's bought in on. Here's what I would, here's the one thing I would say: don't get carried away with the scoreboard. What's the first piece of the scoreboard that he said? What's the first key piece?
Simple.
Simple, because you can track all kinds of stuff. You can get crazy with tracking every single phone call, every single sign call, every single internet lead. Where did it come from? All of that is important to track. It's not important to track on the scoreboard. You overcomplicate it. Keep it really simple. Yeah.
Do you know if, just for maps coaching, the tracking system they have?
KDNA.
Are they opening that up to other people within DWD?
No, not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard it. I mean, they could be on their radar, but not that I'm aware of.
That's an awesome.
It's a really cool tracking system.
Discipline 4, create a cadence of accountability, is where the real execution takes place. This discipline revolves around a 20-minute meeting that happens every week for every team that owns a wildly important goal, and happens at the same time each week. In this meeting, you do not discuss the whirlwind, even if the building is on fire, and every person on the team shows up thinking about the very same critical question. What are the 1 to 3 things that I can do this week in order to impact the scoreboard? In this 15 to 20-minute week session, each person takes just about a minute to review 3 things. First, I report on last week's commitments. Did I do what I said I was going to do? Second, I review the scoreboard. Is the lead measure moving? And if so, is the lag measure responding? And finally, third, based on what that scoreboard is telling me, what am I going to do in this next upcoming week to impact those lead measures? As you look at this week of time, you can see the yellow blocks are those objectives where we're trying to have an impact on the lead measure. And the blue, as you can guess, that's the whirlwind. Now, if you were to remove those yellow blocks, you can see, and you know from experience, it will not stay white. It'll turn blue, and it'll turn blue fast. The 4 disciplines is literally a process for driving the yellow into the blue. Folks, this is what execution looks like. How do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. One of our clients from a Fortune 50 company put it in a really interesting way. She said, we don't have dragons swooping down, knocking us off our priorities. What we have are gnats. Right? Every day with the gnats in our eyes, and we look back over 6 months, and we haven't done any of the things we said we were going to do. The 4th discipline is gnat repellent. I'll take an example and walk you all the way through. Let's say that Bob